My name is Jordan Lerma. I was born and raised on Hawaii Island, and I'm currently based in Olympia, Washington. I work for Cascadia Research Collective, and I do a variety of different things. Mainly I work as a field assistant on the Hawaii project, but I'm also pursuing a second undergraduate degree in electrical engineering. I'm so excited to be able to share with you guys today about a side of our research that doesn't get a lot of attention, or at least as much attention as the whales and dolphins. Before I get into the data set and our sighting histories and talk about all the cool and interesting species we've been fortunate to see, I want to start by giving you my personal connection to seabirds. And towards the end of 2020, my partner and I were trying to decide on a baby name. And in Hawaiian culture, at least in my family, it's been given by a relative or an elder. And when we approached our family, there was so much indecision, it just didn't feel right. So we just waited. And fast forward a few months, I found myself working on a research project off the Hawaiian island of Lanai. And we were getting absolutely beat up. And it doesn't look too bad in this photo, but you can see the white cap starting to form. There's some rain that's coming up in front of us. And we stopped right here. You can see the squall moving in. And it's a nice rainbow. We like to stop where there's a nice view. And we usually take these opportunities to put our cameras away and get ready for getting soaking wet. And just as I turned to get off the pulpit, a small slate-colored bird flew up on our port side. And I grabbed my photo and just snapped a few photos, trying to race the rain that was coming. And you can see the raindrops coming down at this point. But I continued just snapping away at this bird. I wasn't really sure what it was at the time. And it wasn't until we got back on land and we circulated the photos to a few people that we realized it was a blue-gray noddy. And it was the first record for Maui County and the second record of the species south of Kauai. But more important for me, it was that sign that I was looking for. And we ended up naming our daughter, not blue-gray noddy, but the Hawaiian name for blue-gray noddy, Manohina. And that's really my story to give you my personal connection to this data. And I was never really a bird nerd, but spending a lot of time out on the water, there's nothing much else to look at times. And I also wanted to sneak in a cute picture of my daughter. So I've been working for Cascadia Research Collective since 2017. Robin Baird started this project in 2000 and has conducted continuous field work over the past 22 years. We're mostly known for our research and publications on marine mammals, though we do collect a variety of other data like flying fish. We count how many flying fish we see in a given research day. We collect squid, take photos of jellyfish, and of course, systematically count seabirds. To date, from the start of the project, we've had 1,250 research days, with over half of that effort off of the Hawaii Island. And we tend to work in conditions where we can maximize our sighting encounters with marine mammals, which often means Beaufort 2 sea state or less, and we tend to avoid going over any wind lines or avoid big swelled areas. And that map there is our track line from the past 22 years. And we mainly use a 22-foot rigid hull Zodiac. And that pulpit on the front of that one boat is where we typically stand with cameras and hold on for dear life. And in the field, while we're out on a research day, this is our event log. When we see something interesting or encounter a rare species, the person who spots it will yell out something to cue the driver and cue the rest of the crew to just take photos of whatever that thing is. We record stuff into the event log here as shown, with birds having their own special code. So this is how we keep track of where we saw the bird, what we thought the bird is at the time, and match up the frame numbers from every photographer who ended up getting photos of that particular species. And the fun part is when we go back into the office and we download thousands and thousands of really blurry bird photos, because keep in mind, we're rocking and rolling on the boat. Usually 90% of them are blurry and 10% hopefully someone can identify. But keeping track of all these images isn't easy. And it takes a dedicated team at the end of the project to basically go through all of the files and make sure they're all properly named and sorted. And once this data integrity check occurs, we bundle up all these photos with the encounter sheet and we send it off to Peter Pyle. And Peter is tasked to use his expertise to somehow match and identify all the species we weren't able to in the field. And he's incredibly good at it. And at this point, he's gone through basically all of our photos up until 2017 and has filled in various blanks where we usually write just petrel species or noddy species. So it's been an incredible relationship. And just speaking of the data set, I subset our data set from 2002 to 2019, just because we haven't really finished the data integrity checks for 2020 and on. So from 2002 to 2019, we surveyed over 116,000 kilometers, which is incredible, with 50 plus 59 species, and records for at-sea sightings for Tahiti petrels, the first confirmed sighting of a bone-in petrel, and of course the blue-gray noddy that I mentioned, as well as a bridal tern. I think it's the second record for the state of Hawaii. Trying to give you guys an idea of what kind of birds we see. Wedge-tailed shearwaters takes up the majority of our counts, and if we do that, an easier way without wedge-tailed shearwater to take all of the space on the screen. This is a mix of all of the species that we've encountered with a size generally matching up with the frequency of encounter. And I'll just talk briefly about some of the species we've been able to see. Like I said, the Tahiti petrel, the first confirmed Tahiti petrel was off of a cruise ship. It actually landed on the cruise ship and they were able to capture it and take measurements in 2012, I believe. But as far as I know, these two sightings in November 2014 and March 2017 are the only two confirmed at-sea sightings for Tahiti petrel. And bone-in petrel, we have one sighting. And I guess this goes to show the value of just having photographers on the boat with cameras out at all time, constantly scanning, because we see stuff all the time, but without getting an actual photo and being able to send this photo to Peter Pyle to identify, we would have no idea that this was the first sighting of bone-in petrel, which is pretty cool. And Tristram storm petrel is another really cool species we've encountered. The first time in 2015, we saw it associated with a whale carcass off the island of Kauai. And the second time, we had two encounters on the same day with the Tristram storm petrel. And lastly, the bridal tern is another one I want to talk about because they're very difficult to differentiate from sooty terns in the field. So we make a conscious effort to try and photograph every sooty tern in hopes that it ends up being a bridal tern. And digging deeper into the data, this is our sighting history of Uau, or Hawaiian petrel. And you can see just by comparing the sighting rates of this species across the different oceanic seasons, we're able to see and better understand the at-sea distribution of different species in our data set. And so this is the goal of what we're trying to get to by using all of our sighting history and all of our effort to try and quantify why we see certain species at certain times of the year or in certain places. And it is interesting, we have 54,000 wedge-tailed shearwater counts. And the same thing, and it's a drastic difference in sighting rates throughout the oceanic seasons. And this is just one small example. And ironically, it's very difficult to find a wedge-tailed shearwater photo for as many as we see. I guess we take that for granted. And this is an interesting one as it directly relates to our main body of work, but it's associations with different marine mammals and different cetaceans. And by just sheer count, we've seen the most associations with seabirds with spotted dolphins. But as a percentage of our actual encounter sightings number, false killer whales, we actually see the most birds associated with. And there's a nice photo taken from last year of a wedge-tailed shearwater flying just behind breaching false killer whale. But this is a part of our work that's actually really interesting. For the most part, we see noddies, red-footed boobies, sooty terns, sooty shearwaters, and frigate birds associated with these animals. And this is really just a start. We're cleaning up the data set. We're getting it ready to do really large-scale analysis, looking at environmental variables, the same type of analysis we would do with our marine mammal research, but just applied to our seabird data set. And I'm so excited to be able to get this updated and get this ready for the next steps. And we also want to update with confirmed sightings from Peter Pyle from 2018 all the way up to 2022, but he's a very busy man. But hopefully once we get closer to building a viable model for this data set, we can get some more confirmed sightings. And with that, that is the end of my talk. This is a QR code for our Seabird page. We're very proud of the Seabird page. It's probably my favorite page on the Cascadia website. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And I just want to say thank you to all of the folks who help fund our project and keep us on research, and all the folks who support conservation in Hawaii. We really wouldn't be able to do this without you. And always the photographers who slave away on the pulpit trying to get photos so that we can do this research is really cool. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Jordan. You do have a question.
All right.
I can read it for you if you like.
Yes, please.
It's from Lindsay Young, and it says, "Hi, Jordan. Is there a time pattern for your Bonin petrel and Tristram storm petrel sightings? We started translocating them in 2018 to Oahu, and both now breed there, and it would be interesting to correlate at-sea sightings with their new breeding range."
Thank you, Lindsay, for the question. Unfortunately, we just have one sighting of Bonin petrel, so we can't really analyze the time period patterns just yet. Hopefully, with your efforts that you guys are doing at Pac Rim, we'll be seeing more Bonin petrels and Tristram storm petrels in the near future. We did, after going through all of the photos, I did find one black-footed albatross with a band on it, and I'm wondering if Robin sent it to you. But if not, it's pretty interesting as the success of your translocation efforts are going on. It's awesome to see banded birds out there.
And Lindsay says, "Thanks, Jordan."
All right.
I'm going to see if there are any more questions. We may have a break after Jordan's talk because Andreas hasn't arrived. So yeah. Do any of the speakers have a preference? I think we should just stay on schedule since some folks might be wanting to see your talk in real time. Pam, did you want to say something?
No, I failed at using my little emoticon things.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to check the chat again. I don't see any more questions for Jordan, but do you have anything else you want to?
No, that's it for me. I just encourage anyone who's doing research and anyone who's spending time on the water to take photos of anything you don't understand, don't know about, because sightings out there are very few and far between, and you never know when you might photograph something extraordinarily rare.